This is MFG Out Loud. Courageous conversations about sales and marketing for today's manufacturers. With your hosts, Ray Zaganto and Allison DeFore.
Hey, Trailblazers, welcome to our latest episode of MFG Out Loud. I know I say this all the time. This time it's really true. Have we got an amazing couple of guests with us today, and I would love to introduce to you and welcome, first, my guest host, Allison DeFore. Hey, Allison. More importantly, our guest today, Mr. Craig Zoberis, president of Fusion, RoboJob USA, Mr. Jelle de Roovere, hope I got that right, Geschäftsführer, managing director of RoboJob in Europe. And today is going to be an incredible conversation. Craig happens to be one of the most innovative manufacturing leaders that I know of, and I've known him for a while now. Prolific contributor of ideas and insights that help all manufacturers grow and succeed. So much cool stuff to learn from Craig. The latest evolution of Craig's business brings Jelle into the picture with a remarkable innovation and growth story of his own. So today what we're going to do is explore their unique perspectives on manufacturing, what brought them together from 4,700 miles away, and how the right time of automation in your machine shop is right now. Gentlemen, welcome to MFG Out Loud.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Ray.
So glad you're here. Let's jump right in and start the courageous conversation. Craig, let's start with your journey. You didn't start out as an automation integrator. What happened along the way that kind of got you here?
Do you want the short story or the long story?
Yeah, sometimes they're one and the same.
Well, just over 20 years ago, I started my company in a garage, and it turned into a very large contract assembly facility. And over the time, we added machine shop capabilities. Never thought I'd be in the machine shop world, engineer that I was schooled by. And I discovered that I had 14 Haas CNC mills and lathes in our facility one day. And we were struggling with the skills gap. And over a period of time, in my next life, I'm going to write a book on how not to train people that want to be machinists, because I made every mistake in the book. And we tried everything. And we tried everything from even paying people, time and a half for training on site, and it still didn't work. And it came to me through one of our machine shop managers and our team leaders, and suggested that we put robotics on these CNC mills and lathes. And I was really confused, because why are we making the production floor more complex when we're having a hard enough time to find CNC machinists? And he said, look, we have this gap, right? We got this young generation and we got this older generation, the baby boomer generation, they're about to retire. And the best training that we actually discovered over the last 10 years was when we shadowed the baby boomers. And that was the best. And the acceleration curve was always, a lot higher when we actually had them shadow the baby boomers. So I asked him, like, well, why are we adding more complexity here? And he said, look, we just need a buddy on the floor. We just need somebody to do the dull, mundane work of taking parts in and out of the machines. And I was confused, because I thought part of becoming a machinist is to, pay your dues, just taking parts in and out of the machines, and, quality check, with measurement, doing offsets on the CNCs, just being part of the process. And Davin Erickson, our machine shop manager, mentioned to me, he's like, it just takes too long. It just way too long. And then people become frustrated, and they lose patience, and they go on and do something else somewhere else. And so he said, let's put this robot on the floor, And before you know it, we had 5 of these robots tending to 14 of our CNCs, and we increased profitability. We were more predictable in our output, and etc. And over time, we discovered that there was a opportunity for the business to actually go into what they call a systems integrator. So essentially do the same thing we're doing internally for outside customers. And I did my research. This was about 3.5 years ago, almost 4, and discovered this huge need was there. I thought it was just us experiencing it and maybe in the local area in Chicago, but it's a global problem. And so I went to my team and I said, look, we're going to go on a journey. And the journey is that we're going to transform this company. So Fusion OEM turned into Fusion OEM 2.0, and we started integrating for our customers. And over that time period, most of the applications that we had were to do, standard mills and lathes. And the biggest challenge for selling the equipment and actually, basically scaling the company at this pace that I was, more interested in was with the solutions that we had, there was issues with the software. And so I did a little bit of research out there and discovered that there's a company in Belgium called RoboJob. And I reached out to Jelle, late last year. And before you knew it, we formed an alliance to find ourselves working in partnership in reselling the RoboJob product and integrating them into the systems here in the United States, which has been a great start of a relationship. And what we found is that the biggest challenge that we're out there right now is the unknowns. They have these UFOs on the on your machine shop floor, doing this machine tending, and it's very unusual. So why we were attracted to RoboJob is that their systems are bulletproof. They're solid solutions that we've installed, and the software is even more user friendly than you can imagine. So that's how we are going to market right now with the RoboJob product, and we are excited about the future together.
I was curious if you've encountered pushback or resistance from manufacturers who say, isn't adopting robotics going against, what we're trying to do with creating jobs for people and whatnot. So I was really curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, Jelle, you can mention a lot of experience with this. So I'll let you speak. I think everybody's heard my voice a little bit too long here.
Yeah. So Alison, it's a question that a lot of people ask themselves, and the answer to that question is, if we had enough machinists in the market to fill all the open vacancies, I wouldn't be worried too, And what now happens is that since we don't have enough machinists in the market, and we still need to keep our expensive machines up and running for 1 or 2 shifts a day, we need to put all the pressure on the good machinists that are in place, because there are no other machinists to find on the streets. And this makes it so hard for our machinists to survive. And in the end, if they don't survive, then then we don't have any reason to exist anymore, and I'm going to explain a little bit later how we started in Europe. But the actual goal of RoboJob is to make the business attractive for young people again, so that we find more machinists, that more people are willing to become machinists and work with the CNCs. And the only thing that we can do in order to solve this is use tools that help them. And when I talk about this with my father, who founded the company, he told me that 30 years ago, people were used to work with conventional machines. They used to do everything manually, right? And also then, when the first CNC machines came into the market, there was the same question, like you ask right now, isn't it not blocking our people from doing the actual job? And then you see that the CNCs, they were just a new way of helping our machinists doing repetitive jobs. Once they programmed one part, they could do the next parts in the same batch automatically. Unbelievable, yeah? And companies that didn't invest in CNC machines, they're not alive anymore, because the machinists themselves, they say, I'm gonna program it once or maybe twice, and then I want the machine to repeat, you know? So yes, it's helping our people, and it's making the business effective again, I believe.
Yeah, I'd like to stay on that theme, because your journey for your family business, from where it began to now the RoboJob years, I would love for you to share that journey with our listeners today. It's a hell of a story.
Yeah, sure. So I explained, my father founded the company, and in our family we have our own CNC shop already for more than 35 years now. And we basically, in the 80s, my father bought his first CNC machine in Germany because he wanted to make prototypes for a machine he invented. But then some months later, he discovered that the machine had available capacity. So he started selling CNC work to other machine builders in Belgium and in the Netherlands. And then I believe 15 years later, our shop was filled with 20 CNC machines, and 90% of the work we were doing, we did as a subcontractor. Yeah. So with 20 CNC machines, the average batch size in our company is 30 to 40 parts. And even in Europe, we call it a job shop, you know, so we are a real job shop, right? And we don't know what we will produce in the next 2 weeks. And I can still say to today that this is the heart of RoboJob. Yeah, so we come from the manufacturing industry. We work with CNC machines, and we're used to make something new out of a cutted raw material, right? This is our background, Ray, and this is what we have been doing all along the way. And in 2007, my father was looking for extra people to join the company, and also to help our best machinists survive. And because he couldn't find people, he had a billboard in front of the street, a very big one, saying CNC machinists wanted. You earn more than you earn with the neighbor companies. And that billboard was on the street for 3 years, and we had 5 people in 3 years' time coming to our company and explaining that they wanted to work for my father. And of those 5 people, only 2 of them had machinist skills. And one of them went into the company, and after 1 day, he told my father that he was trying to do something else, and he quit the company. So it's unbelievable. And the frustration was so big that he wanted to do something to help his best machinists survive. So he had several sessions internally and talked to them, very similar to the story that you hear Craig has explained, where most of the people told my father that 30% of the time that they are spending inside of the company has to do with creative jobs. So creating a new part, setting up the machine, finding the right tools to make the parts as efficient as possible. And 70% of the time in the company had to do with repetitive jobs. Well, they didn't say 70, they said all of my time, all the rest of my time goes to repetitive jobs, but okay, they also had to go to the toilet, they smoked cigarettes. So this counts as well, right? And but they were very afraid having robots in the company, because they thought that it was so difficult to program a robot, you know? And because the batch sizes in our company are so small, they told my father, okay, if you're placing a robot inside of the company, your target, Helmut, the name of my father is Helmut, your target, Helmut, is that we can program the robot in 5 minutes of time. Otherwise, I can do it faster as a robot, and I will do it. And actually, this was a challenge big enough for my father to lock himself up in the garage of my grandfather. So he told the guys, you know what, you can run the business, the CNC shop. I'm going to lock myself up for 3 years, and I'm going to develop the solution that you like to work with, that makes your job more attractive again. And he did. He called an old colleague that was, very experienced with programming at Siemens. Yeah, he used to program all the logic behind railways and tram stations and so on. And they developed in a period of 3 years' time the first RoboJob solution, with the goal, Ray and Alison, to program this system for a part that you haven't seen in 5 minutes of time. And we achieved. And in 2010, we've placed the first system in our own shop, and then we optimized it because, of course, you can only make a system better when you work with it and make mistakes. And that's what we did. So we made a lot of mistakes in the first design, and then we optimized and made it even more easier. And then in 2011, colleagues of my father that also had their own CNC shop, they wanted to have this solution. And this was the starting point of my career at RoboJob, selling these systems to CNC shops, but also finding partners in Europe, because we figured out that all companies in Europe have the same problem. They cannot find people anymore, and the batch sizes have become smaller and smaller and smaller. And then I was quite surprised last year because the COVID pandemic hit the European market. At RoboJob, we were having a little bit more time than before, because our growth has been exponential. And then in May, I received an email from Craig, but in May there was too much COVID pandemic going on. And then in December, he wrote to me again. And I talked with Craig online, and I was so amazed that the story that he told was exactly the same as what we have been experiencing. And then we had many talks, Craig, you remember, every week we had, for me, a night call. And we got to know each other a lot better. And in the meantime, I have to say that the partnership that we have initiated with Craig and his team has been fantastic so far. We have organized several open houses. We have sold the first 10 systems, I believe, in the meantime to end customers. The first are already installed. And for me, when visiting the States in June, and Craig's company and also talking to customers in the market, Chicago area, the world has become a very similar place, you know. So we strongly believe that with our solutions, we can also help manufacturers in the United States to make the business attractive again. Yeah, and that's where we are today. Yes.
That's a great story. You've got. I know there's been a bit of a lag. What you've seen and experienced in Europe, it took a while before it got to the U.S. Would you agree? I mean, I think the U.S. is a little behind some of the Industry 4.0 or advanced manufacturing techniques that Europe's more fully embraced. Are you seeing that?
Well, to be quite honest, Ray, I see that the world has become a global place, and this is mostly thanks to the American culture that has spread the videos and TV shows and to the entire world. And why do I say this? Because in Belgium, all our TV shows are American TV shows, and we see them in American language. So that's why we can speak English. But in the end, also bringing fantastic companies like Apple or 3M or other big American companies to the rest of the world has made the world a very global place, a very similar place. And also, the example I want to give is today we are having a podcast. I'm sitting in Belgium, Craig is sitting in Chicago area, Alison in California area, and it's unbelievable, So the world has become a very small place, and it's so excited because I believe that because of this, great things will happen in the future. Yeah. So that's the first thing I want to say. On the other hand, there are still a lot of differences, and when I compare Europe to the United States, I believe the reason why we are a little bit ahead with automation is because our social security system has made people lazy in Europe. If they get a permanent contract at the company, it's not so easy to fire them. So on the other hand, it's also that people stay longer at the company, so it's not easy to hire them. And if people don't work, they are paid by the government. They get an average wage for doing nothing. But of course, somebody has to pay the price. Yeah. And how they solve it in Europe is that companies have to pay high taxes, and people that work also have to pay very high taxes. So if I compare our company, we pay about 35 to 40% company taxes, and the people, they pay about 55% taxes on their wage. And if they then go to the grocery store, they pay 21% taxes on all the products they buy. So,
wow.
And this is the biggest difference between Europe and the United States. Yeah. And this is the reason why, Ray, most of the companies are with their backs against the wall. Yeah. Wages are high because of the taxes. People don't earn that much because of the taxes. And if you then want to compete in a global world, where you need to compete sometimes with companies in China or in Eastern Europe, or in your case in Mexico or other low labor countries, it makes you look for systems to make your company more profitability. And this is the reason why I believe that in Europe we are, let's say 5 years before the technology in the United States for what automation is concerned. And this is why the timing is so right to enter the United States, because the culture in the United States is so much more flexible. And I strongly believe that if we do this right, then the growth for automation in the United States will be exploding. Yeah. Yes. So
I'm curious how Craig feels about what you just said and how it's different here, but aren't you seeing the same thing with, people would rather just stay home and get the check, jump in here.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with Jelle. And I like to say it's like a 10-year difference. I think what they experienced in 2010, 2011 is what we're experiencing here in 2020, 21. But yeah, the COVID, that was a catalyst. Most of machine shops that are, like higher production, that might not have automation, has very low price labor, and they're in rural areas. And some of these rural areas are primed for automation before COVID. Then COVID hits, and there's stimulus checks, and there's incentives to actually not to go to work. And I was floored to hear that in some cases it outpays there what they would be getting in a machine shop floor. So now, a small detail that is really important to hear is that people that are machinists, even if they were journeyman machinists or apprentice machinists, whatever you might call it, even if they were to be paid to stay at home, by the government's, incentive there, they're the ones that would still show up to work. And machine shop owners want people that want to be machinists. They're not really, are behind the ones that are just going to be operators. Operators will be needed, right? I'm calling it like a ditch digger. But machining world people that are there at the entry level are not there to be operators. They want to be machinists, and it takes years and years of experience and patience and training. And those people will be the ones that show up to work. They're not the ones that they're incentivized by the work that they're doing, not the paycheck that they have. So to your point, Allison, we're seeing it, and COVID actually was a big wake up call. Now we got like a Delta variant, and now there's also another uptick, and then that's what I gotta say. There's a silver lining in it for RoboJob, is because they're taking this very seriously now, because they're seeing that their customers are not allowing this to be an excuse anymore. They still got to produce their OEM equipment. They still need these machine parts, and they need them on time, and they don't care how you do it, right? So this is unprecedented times for workforce needs today, and the automation is the cure. It's the only cure right now. While we're going to see inflation, of course, right now, we're also going to say, I think machine shops are going to become more agile. We always hear about lean, right? We hear about lean processes in a company, and that lean manufacturing is just the ticket of doing business now, right? Well, you know what it's going to be? Like if we're fortunate enough to talk again 10 years from now, we'll say automation was the ticket of doing machine shop work. If you don't have automation, how are you going to survive? And I'm not trying to be an alarmist. It's the truth of the matter, because we do machining. We feel that we have our own incubator. Jelle's family has the machine shop. They have their incubator. They know what's going on. It's like a market test, right? And they enjoy having people that love machining to work there. And the people that work there, I love to see the robots doing those dull, mundane tasks.
Yeah, it seems like the robots actually allow it. They bring it's more of a positive kind of freedom, is what I'm getting from this, that you're allowing a machinist who's just such a high level craftsperson to be more creative and really spend more time doing that high level thinking and work.
Absolutely. It's what they want to do. And Jelle mentioned it. They want to do the more creative tasks. I know it sounds artistic, but in machining, it's not just you program it once and that's it. They're optimizing it. They're looking at the best tools to use, the best setups, the best processes. The machine tool is a very expensive investment. And if it's not up and running continuously, it's a boat anchor to them, and they can't have that. They need to have that thing producing product all day long. And how they can do that is having those machinists that can actually optimize the utilization of that very high priced machine tool on a daily basis. If they don't, then that's where the company suffers.
Yeah, and maybe we can visualize this a little bit better, Allison. And I want to do an exercise with you, right? So can you say, or can you tell us one of the exercises that you have been doing on which you had to think very, very hard for, let's say, half an hour? Is there anything that pops up in your mind that you've been lately doing that really needed all of your attention for half an hour?
Like in business or actual exercise? Like what?
Doesn't matter. And anything you can choose.
I don't know if this is appropriate, but I would say writing content.
Writing content. And let's imagine that you're in the writing. Yeah, you're at your desk or on the computer, and you're writing, and you're thinking about the right sentence and the right words, and thinking about what to put at the beginning of the sentence and what at the end, and how to connect the sentences. And suddenly you get a call from your mother-in-law, and you pick up the phone, right? And you say, yeah, okay, I will come tonight for dinner. You hang up the phone, and then you look again at your desk, and you don't remember where you were, right? Or you just missed the next sentence. And then suddenly your 14-year-old daughter calls you, and you're, I have to take this phone, right? And you planned to finish the writing in, let's say, half an hour or maybe an hour. And then at the end of the night, you see that you didn't spend half an hour, but you spent 2 hours or 3 hours, or you couldn't finish. And this is exactly what our machinists experience today. They program a machine, they're in the programming, and then suddenly another machine is finished with a part, and they have to run there, take out the finished part, put the next part back in. They come back to the first machine and they don't know where they are, And
what do they say? It takes you 30 minutes, right, to get back to the place where you were in your brain in terms of focus.
Exactly.
That's a lot of downtime.
And we need to help those people. We need to tell them, you know what, if the other machine is finished, somebody or something will be there to load and unload the part. And that's essentially what our robot systems, and this is also why we call them an assist, what they are doing.
Wow.
I know Ray's got burning questions.
That's a great example, and I'm so relieved you didn't ask me that question. But no, part of it, to me, one of the things with automation is the benefits, the payback, the advantages, all of that seems so obvious. How can there possibly still be resistance to it? Or has COVID and everything else finally created an event big enough to where people go, okay, now I believe you. Has it been the programming? Has it been how it's purchased? I know a lot of those things change. I just like your perspective on that.
There's Jelle, we can go on for days on this one. So are we on episode 2 already?
It could be.
Well, first of all, you have times right now where we're super sensitive. Allison, you touched on it before, where people think robotics are taking away jobs. Well, every machine shop owner would roll their eyes because they're like, if I had the people, I would employ the people, right? So they have that. So that's the number one thing. And management has to have that conversation with their team. We had it too. We say, hey, we're going to put this automation here to make it better and make your job more attractive. And we're going to make it a better retention for our other employees to see that you're not doing this dull work and you're going to do the more creative work, the work that should just take you a half hour to program instead of 4 hours to program. And so that's part of it. The other part of it is it's the unknown. Like I said, I called it a UFO. This is something unusual. It's not uncommon in the automotive industry to see robots doing heavy lifting at high speeds, repetitive over and over, right? It's common nature. It's like nobody thinks about it, right? But we're taking and bringing a robot in front of something where a human used to be. That's what we're doing. There's systems that are built, machines that are there, and they're bringing this and making it part of their process. So it's a paradigm shift, right? And Jelle and his team do a terrific job, and I'm so honored to be part of this team because they can so eloquently talk about what they've experienced because they have over 1,000 installations in Europe of the same product, and they've heard every story, and they've seen all the challenges that are associated with that mindset change. But as soon as they put one in, Allison, it just, boom, it starts to blossom. They're like, and then the only regret they say after they put that first one in is that they didn't do it sooner and they didn't do it on more machines. But Jelle, you probably could even add more to this.
Yeah, maybe a couple more things for the listeners to this podcast as well. Is one of the questions that we heard the most is that that people are afraid. Like you've been explaining, Craig, they are afraid that they cannot program the robot system. So they need to see it. They need to come to Fusion. They need to come to customers that have the system in place because it's bulletproof. It's made actually like the iPhone. It's dialogue. The system is so intuitive that everybody can do it. You don't have to be a machinist. Everybody can do it. And I want to touch on something that Craig explained a little bit earlier. Machinists, they want to be machinists. They want to set up a machine and they want to optimize. They go for that extra second that they can get out of the process, right? And it's a mind shift. If you run the machine overnight with an automation, it doesn't have to be finished at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. So people need to think that with automation, it gives them so much extra time that they need to look for stable production processes. They need to look not for the last second and in a production process. They need to look for a stable process that can make the first part right and the last part right. And if they don't start now, somebody else is already doing this, yeah, right. And then you will lose, right? So we want to take this fear and we want to get our systems in place at many customers. This is also the reason why we organize open houses at Fusion, RoboJob USA, to get people in, to maybe come back in 3 or 4 times. We've had this customer already, Craig, that came in back 4 or 5 times. And he brought his first engineer, then he brought his machinist, and then somebody else, and everybody played with the system to get comfortable. Yeah,
that's really a good idea. And as a marketer, I'm not sure if you need a new tagline, but I'm going to throw this out there. So easy to program, your grandma could do it. You can have that.
Keep that one. I have seen the system. Craig was kind enough to invite me to his facility, which is freaking gorgeous, by the way. But the system is so elegant. I mean, I come from a time when it was you needed to be pretty good at Visual Basic to be able to do the programming, and you not only were you a machinist, but you had to have these other special skills. And seeing the way that RoboJob has developed the software, and it is so intuitive. And I know at the open house I attended, I wasn't brave enough to take the challenge, but you did throw it out there. It says, who wants to come up and try it? Welcome to all comers. Right. It is that elegant of a solution, to use. So, Craig, you had shared, in your business when you started your journey with, first finding that, getting that first buddy on the floor and then up to, where you are right now, that you'd found tremendous amount of productivity and cost savings, and those types of things. Jelle, I'm assuming that's the same is true on your side as well, right? Yeah. And,
what brought automation the most to our company, to our job shop, Ray? It brought our people joy again,
Interesting.
And love that.
And it's unbelievable. So it took away the stress because, like I told you, with your mother-in-law, Alison, and you were writing, and if somebody could pick up that phone call while you're in the zone, right. You're happy. Afterwards, you're more happy. Yeah, everybody's more happy, and you have less stress. And this is the biggest thing that automation will bring to a shop. It makes your people happy, and then they come to work, they're more motivated, they see things clearer, and automatically profitability increases, efficiency increases. Planning goes a lot better because the guys in the company, they say, okay, we need to make 40 parts. It's aluminum, we can automate it. Okay, let's set it up with a robot at the end of the shift, right? And so, it brings you so much more.
Byproduct benefits of improved culture and recruiting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've used that line so many times. It's so true, and because we're living it. It's an attraction of new talent and a retention. And if you go and say, hey, I'm interested in being in the machining world, I want to work for a company that's technologically advanced. These CNCs are all pretty well advanced. I mean, they're getting better and better, of course, right? They're like Moore's law, right? They're increasing in technology and becoming more and more affordable. but what can people visually see when they walk into a shop when they were to be hired or be looking at it as a prospective employment in the future, and they see robots there, they're like, wow, that's cool. Can I do that too? And you're like, yes. And that makes it interesting. And then what Jelle said too, on the retention side, that's key. And like right now, I'm sure our machinists are getting calls every day by recruiters. I mean, the recruiters are climbing. I'm getting recruited and they don't even know I own my own company. But, so it's so interesting that what we're doing is we're making it attractive again. And that's what we owe it. And Helmut, Jelle's father, said it in one video that I think was recorded maybe a year or so ago. And when he said it, it just so resonated with me because it's truly what we believe. We have to make this industry attractive again, or we're never going to have enough talent. And it might be a smaller population of machinists because of the automation. But when I say that, it's truly people that love to do what they're doing. They love to come to work. These are guys, or most of them are gals, also are gearheads. They have motorcycles at home. They have cars at home that they work on, and they want to come to work and they want to make parts. They just don't want to take parts in and out of a machine. Right. So this is attractive to them because they know also with it too, is if that's happening, and it goes back to both of the things that I talked about and what Jelle talked about, people that work for those companies are going to make more money faster because they get more experience. Machining is about experience. And the more you set up a machine, the more you do different parts and do different things, not the quantity of the parts that you're doing in a lot. It's the amount of variance, how many different types of parts you've done. That's what gives you more experience, which when you get more experience, you get more pay because you're more valuable. And if you're more valuable to the company or to the market, that's what the goal is.
Thank you for listening to MFG Out Loud with Ray Zaganto and Allison DeFore. You can subscribe and find show notes at mfgoutloud.com.